Hello, everyone. Welcome to a higher dimension. I'm Gloria Danvers from Gloria Danvers Hypnosis in Orlando, Florida, and I'm your host for a higher dimension. On this podcast, we explore the soul-level side of the human experience through past life memories, spiritual awakenings, psychic intuition, healing through hypnosis, and those strange but meaningful moments in a person's life that shift everything they ever knew. Some weeks will be just you and I, and we'll be digging deep into the mysteries of the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the divine mind. Some weeks I'll be bringing on a guest to share their own extraordinary journey in past life regression, spiritual awakenings, psychic phenomena, interdimensional experiences, and, yes, paranormal encounters. And whether it's their story, or your story, or even my story, the real question is always, what now? What comes next? How do you live differently after a spiritual awakening? How do you manage your life after the curtain of time and memory and spirit is pulled back? Who are you? What do you know now that you didn't know then? If you feel like something inside you is stirring and expanding, or even cracking wide open, you're probably already on your path. We know nothing happens by accident. I've had amazing breakthroughs by understanding that seemingly random information and circumstances are never random. So if you're here listening, chances are you're ready for your own hypnotic journey, your own spiritual awakening, and finding your place in an expanding universe. You can reach me at gloriadanvershypnosis.com for a free consultation. Let's chat about what all of this could mean for you. You'll find this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, LinkedIn, YouTube, Amazon, and iHeart.com. If you're interested in the subjects that I'm bringing to your table, please hit like and subscribe. Your support can help me take this podcast to the next level. But right now, take a breath, lean in, and let's explore the hidden dimensions of your soul inside and outside the universe and beyond, right here on a higher dimension. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's your girl, Gloria. And today we're diving into something that's a little more edgy than usual, a little raw, but really deeply relevant to so many of our lives right now. Did you know that 1 out of 4 women who walk into my office for hypnosis have had a damaging relationship with someone that they labeled a narcissist? That's a lot of people. I've done a podcast on what it means spiritually when someone is there to give you a hard time and basically pushes you up into your mission and into your unfolded real self. But what does it mean for the narcissist? How does that path raise a soul's vibration? Why would anyone come here to specifically destroy other human beings? Narcissism. It's a word that gets thrown around constantly. You hear it in conversations, in therapy offices, in social media, and for good reason. The impact of narcissistic behavior can be devastating. If you've lived through it, you know the manipulation, the gaslighting, the erosion of self-esteem. It cuts deep, and it may take years to recover from. But here's the question I want to ask today. From a soul perspective, what's really going on when a soul incarnates as a narcissist? The question that I hear over and over again when I am working with someone in hypnosis to mend the damage is why? Why would they do this? Why? Is it a mistake? A soul mission gone wrong? Or is it part of the plan all along? And if it is the plan, why on earth and in heaven would a soul choose that? So let's start here. Every soul incarnates with a mission. Sometimes it's a very broad mission, and sometimes it's very specific. That mission often revolves around growth, healing, service, or balancing the energies from other lifetimes. But once we drop into human form, the personality and the ego step onto the stage. And sometimes the ego hijacks the entire play. Narcissism at the human level is the armor of ego, the mask that hides a profound sense of disconnection. Most narcissists are running from a core wound of unworthiness. But instead of collapsing inward, they build an inflated self-image to survive. So, did the soul mess up? Not exactly. Because on a soul level, even this mask becomes part of the learning. And this may sound strange, but some souls do take on darker and more challenging roles. Think of it like playing the antagonist in a movie. No one likes the villain, right? But without the villain, the hero doesn't rise. Without the challenge, there's no transformation. Some souls agree to incarnate in ways that catalyze others. Narcissists often force people around them to grow stronger boundaries, to reclaim self-worth, to finally say no. And while it is painful, downright excruciating, the soul of the narcissist may be fulfilling a contract that looks, from the higher plane, like service through shadow. It's not glamorous. It's not pretty, but it is real. Why would a soul plan such a path? Well, here are 3 reasons that I think a soul would plan a path like this. Here are the 3 reasons that I think a soul would choose that path. Number 1, to experience extreme separation. One of the core wounds of incarnation is the illusion of separation from Source. A narcissistic lifetime may be the soul's way of fully immersing in that illusion, experiencing life almost entirely cut off from empathy, unity, and divine connection. Separation is still an experience because knowing the furthest edge of separation, the soul can deepen its understanding of reunion and of wholeness in future lifetimes. The narcissistic path is the far edge of disconnection from Source, from empathy, from unity, even from its own oneness. Sometimes the soul wants to taste that extremity, not forever, but as part of its journey. Number 2 would be to catalyze growth in others. This is the contract role. I will play the one who deceives you so that you finally learn to trust yourself. Or, I will play the one who takes so that you finally remember how to stand in your worth. Souls often agree to play difficult roles for one another. The narcissist role is catalytic. It provokes boundaries, self-worth, and truth in others. A soul may choose this path not out of malice, but out of willingness to be the antagonist that awakens others. From the human view, it looks cruel, but from the soul view, it can be profound service. And number 3, to eventually awaken through emptiness. Because here's a secret. Narcissism is a dead end. You can chase admiration, control, an image forever, but it never fills the hole inside you, because that's the hole that will be filled up with connection to Source. Sooner or later, the soul behind the narcissist hits the wall of emptiness. And at that moment, that can crack them open to real awakening. It is a most challenging incarnation due to the very nature of narcissism. Sometimes the thought of them cracking themselves open to real awakening and real accountability is too much to bear. And so they continue to hide behind their own constructs. Now here's where it gets interesting. Just because a soul comes in with the potential for narcissism does not mean that it has to stay there. Free will plays a huge role. Some narcissists soften and awaken in this lifetime. And think about how transformative that is. Others dig deeper into the mask and keep recycling the lesson over multiple incarnations. So yes, it may be part of the plan. But it's not a rigid fate. It's more like a curriculum with many possible outcomes. Narcissism is often about distorted power, domination, control, and manipulation. The soul may choose to walk this path, to experience misuse of power firsthand. Possibly in later lives, the memory of the consequences of that misuse can lead to deep humility and a more conscious form of leadership. In other words, the narcissistic life plants the seeds for the soul to one day become a wise and compassionate leader. And why now? Why do we see so much narcissism now? Why is it in the cultural spotlight? From a collective soul perspective, it's not an accident. Humanity is being asked to evolve in how we love, how we relate, and how we define worth. Narcissism exposes our collective addiction to image, performance, and external validation. It is so excessive that you cannot pretend that you don't see it. And that's the point. Because narcissism is often about distorted power, domination, control, manipulation, it's forcing us, painfully, to shift towards authenticity, shift towards boundaries, and to a deeper sense of self-responsibility. In other words, the narcissist archetype is teaching the collective, which is us, the same lessons it teaches individuals. And one last piece. Souls evolve over many lifetimes. A soul that incarnates as a narcissist in one lifetime may swing into deep empathy in the next, almost as if to balance the scales. It's not punishment. It's simply the way that growth unfolds. Experiencing both sides of the spectrum helps the soul understand the full picture of human relationships. From the wound of separation to the bliss of reunion with Source. And I would say at some point, if we are experiencing a true soul evolution, that we will choose the experience of being a narcissist. Because human beings have to experience and know the shadow in themselves to understand what their lives are all about. So I'd like you just to bring to mind someone in your life that you feel embodies narcissism. It could be a parent, a partner, a boss, a sibling. It could be anybody in your life. And now look beyond the mask of this person. I want you to see that soul. That soul is tired and heavy and weighed down from playing this role of ego and control. See them standing there, stripped of the image, longing to return to light, but unable to move out of their own way. I want you to shift your gaze back to yourself and ask yourself, what did this soul's presence awaken in me? Was it a boundary that I finally had to set? A self-worth that I had to claim? A clarity I could no longer ignore? Because there was something there. There still is something there. So allow yourself to receive that gift, even if it came wrapped in pain. Because even if it's wrapped in pain, it's still a gift. And then release them. You don't need to carry their roles any longer. That's another important part. You are in no way responsible for fixing them. You are also not responsible for enabling them, even when you see them destroying themselves, because their soul is on its own journey, just as you are on yours. And one thing that we do not have the right to, as fellow travelers, is to deny someone else their journey, no matter how it looks. A thought or a deed or a situation doesn't look the same way when you're perceiving it from the other side. In fact, it is the complete opposite. Letting them go to experience the consequences of their own actions may be what allows them to break free from their self-imposed chains and become self-actualized. Now that you know all these things, does it change your perspective just a little? And it doesn't mean that you need to cozy up to a narcissist. You'd be well advised to keep them at arm's length for your own mental health. But they are human too. They are your soul's companions too. And the things that we understand oftentimes enlighten us about why it all came about in the first place. From the wider lens of the collective, it may be less about individual souls going off course and more about humanity staging a necessary confrontation with its own shadow. Narcissism, in this sense, becomes a mirror held up to society, reflecting our obsession with image, power, and external validation. It's not just about one person's ego. It's about what happens when entire cultures drift too far into illusion and performance, forgetting the deeper truths of connection, empathy, and authenticity. Seen this way, narcissism functions almost like a catalyst, forcing us to reckon with what we have tolerated, what we have admired, or what we have even rewarded in our leaders, our institutions, and our relationships. It literally shines a spotlight on the cracks in our collective values. Do we worship grandiosity more than substance? Do we prioritize ambition over compassion? Do we confuse control with strength? Do we believe it's okay for the strong to eat the weak? The narcissistic archetype, rising so visibly now, exposes these distortions and demands that we, as a collective, choose differently. And maybe the rise of narcissism in our world is not a curse, but a kind of soul contract that humanity signed together, a push towards greater authenticity, greater connection, greater unity. By being confronted with the extreme of ego, we are being asked to reclaim balance and to anchor real truth. In a world that pushes it away, but is hungry for it all the same. In this way, narcissism isn't just a personal wound that we each navigate, but it's a global wake-up call. Maybe its collective function is to strip away illusion on a grand scale, so that a more honest, compassionate, and spiritually evolved global society can emerge. And this thought can give us hope. This thought, if we hold it, gives light to shadow. Because even the darkest among us do eventually turn back to the light. And thank you for being here with me today. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And as always, thank you for tuning in to A Higher Dimension. I'll catch you next week. Bye. And that's a wrap. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope that I've managed to pique your interest, raise your curiosity, give you something to think about, teach you something that you didn't know before, or send you down a major rabbit hole. If you're curious about what I do, if you would like to schedule a session with me, shoot me an email. Go onto my website, gloriadanvershypnosis.com, and book a free consultation. Let's discover something about you that you didn't know. Let's open some doors for you that you didn't know were there. I'll be back next week. And until then, stay curious. Stay open to all the things that come in for you through a higher dimension.